Hey everybody, welcome. It's a great Sunday afternoon, and I'm glad that you are all here. Um, this is my new home. I'm at Kisasa News. I'll tell you a lot more about Kisasa News later, but for right now, I'm going to introduce somebody very special to me and dear to me who is on my left. The show, as you see, the title is Conversations with Dad, and this here is my dad. He's been my dad, my friend, my mentor, and a lot of my disciplinarian and everything for more than 30 years. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but for more than 30 years, every he's been with me every step of the way. So I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit before I keep going. Dad, it's you.
Hi everybody, George Agoki, Bianca's dad. I'm happy to be here.
So basically, parenting across cultures is what we'll be discussing every week, and we'll be touching on various topics. So today we're just going to kind of do an overview of what it is, and you're going to delve into a little bit of our personal relationship and how we've managed to resolve conflict, how we've had happy times, and what works and what doesn't work. And we've been in the States for now almost 20 years since we moved, and I've been a missionary kid as well. We've moved up and down, so all these experiences are going to help us as we discuss. And if you have any questions about parenting, or if you're a new parent, or you have anything interesting to discuss, we'll be more than happy to take your topics, and we'll be getting guests in. Like, we'll be putting you in the guest box. So, that. My first question is, because we have to get this big one out of the way. How did you deal with me being a single mom? You're an African dad, and how did you deal with me? That first phone call, or however you found out, how did you deal with it? Like, how did you encompass forgiveness, and speaking to me about it, and still being a parent and parenting in love, and how did you overcome that, or did you not need to overcome it, or are you just good at?
Well, I had nothing to overcome because every day brings new challenges. There are some things in parenting that you really can hardly prepare for. But the main preparation is, what core values do you embrace? If you have those core values of honesty, forgiveness, love, nobody's going to take these away from you. And who you truly are at the core is informed by your beliefs. Nobody's going to take that away from you. I happen to be a person who believes in a creator, God. And the way we are created is such that, as human beings created in His image, we must also reflect the way He deals with us. That's how I've dealt with you and your siblings.
Okay, and so when it came to this, because you're an educator as well, how did you manage to? Because a lot of when we come to this country, or wherever, as long as you're not living in Africa, neighbors, friends, families will probably ask or question your parenting, or say, okay, your parents, your children are single mothers. How did you resolve that? Or when someone came up to you and say, how could you let that happen? What would your typical response be, or what would you advise other parents who may find themselves in that situation where they have it may be men or females, because now men and boys are actually bringing home children, so it doesn't really matter. As a parent, what would your advice be to them?
Nobody goes to school to be a parent. Unless we now introduce a new course in parenting.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens. The good we have in us as parents, part of it we have inherited from our parents, the way we were parented. Those good things we cherished from our parents, we try to pass them on as we parent our own kids. And we hope that the good we do with our kids and the success we have, you pass it on also in parenting our grandchildren. So it's really trial and error. But again, like I said, each of these strategies you use must be anchored in something that you sincerely believe in and you have at your core.
Okay, so when it comes to things like religion, because today we're just putting it out there about the things we're going to discuss. Religion, growing up in our household, religion was very important. We went to church schools, and we did mission work for the latter part of us growing up, and were very heavily involved in church. We were in all church activities. But of course, when you move here because of work schedules, living separately from each other, you're not in the same household, how do you resolve the issue of family worship, or how we always used to go to church together as families, and I think the African culture does have that, where we tend to worship as a family, we tend to go to church together as a family. But you come here now with schedule, and everybody grows up and everybody goes into different tangents of life. How do you resolve that issue? Because I know you're still dealing with it. Because you can't force someone to go to church. Or you can't force religion.
There's nothing now for me to resolve. The resolution was to bring up a child in the way you want them to go, and they will not depart from it. We did our best when you were little, when we could shepherd you. But now that you are grown, you are on your own. Everyone does what is supposed to be right in the eyes of God.
Okay, so let's go now to and all these topics, we'll dive into them. Like, what's your take on discipline?
Discipline,
corporal punishment, or discipline, or kiboko, or whatever you want, or the paddle, or whatever you want to call it. Because growing up, we always knew that you would admonish us in love and talk us through our mistakes. It was never like a rule of law, like you've laid the land of the law, and if we go against it, then we fear you and we don't talk to you and avoid you for a week or a half. Like, you would actually sit and talk us through the problem. And what's your take on corporal punishment, or people who decide, well, the paddle or spanking or is the ultimate rule of law, instead of actually talking to your children, or being able to let your children be able to talk to you about their problems as well?
First, it must be clear that you don't spare the rod. If you spare the rod, you spoil the kid. However, what is discipline? Discipline is making disciples. What is making disciples? That is having followers. To have a follower as a leader, as a family leader, I must use a strategy where my instructions, my directives, my leading must be responded to favorably by those who follow me. And so I must engage with you so you can respond favorably to my directives. How does that come about? I have got to conduct myself in a way that you can follow. That's what discipline is. Discipline means simply making disciples, making followers. If you want your kids to follow you, you've got to woo them. You've got to act in a way that they respond favorably. Remember, discipline also has rewards. Mm-hmm. Rewards are both positive and negative.
How are rewards negative? Okay, well,
they're negative in the sense that the consequences are the opposite of what is positive. Okay. If you behave well, you might get chocolate. if you don't behave well, that chocolate will be withdrawn. Yeah. That is a negative reward. Whether in this country or elsewhere, believe you me, parents will always want not to spare the rod. It's just that there is fear of who is watching me. Otherwise, each parent would like to not spare the rod.
Very interesting. So today, before I sign off, I'm going to talk on a very interesting topic as domestic violence and choosing of partners has been something that's been discussed a lot because we've had a lot of issues come up. And I know I have personally gone through a domestic abuse kind of situation. When you as a father, especially when it comes to parenting girls or even parenting boys, by the way, we're 2 girls and 2 boys. The girls come first and then the boys come after. So I think he learns from the girls. I don't know who makes more mistakes. Do the women make more mistakes than the men, or it's equal? What do you think?
That's for you to judge. But I was told if you bring forth girl children first, you are blessed.
Oh, amen. So hopefully so far we're almost there.
I think it varies from culture to culture.
True.
Yeah.
So when it comes to choosing a spouse, or when you're when a girl, especially for a girl, when they're dating and stuff like that, because I remember one time when I first said, okay, I'm going to live with someone, and I was going to the military base, and I remember you took me on this long ride, and that was like the longest ride of my life, where you gave me the pros and cons of actually moving in with somebody, and says, maybe you can go do it, but you're going to regret your decisions, but there's nothing I can do because you love the person at the moment. What are the tips that you would give when parents are talking to children about choosing a spouse or choosing someone who they're dating? What are we supposed to look for?
You see, the way we did it before is not the way you do it. We are a whole generation apart.
Yeah, true.
Because when we grew up, we listened a lot to our parents. That's how we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed are you if you have God-fearing parents.
Sure.
And their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the people you are likely to resort to get advice. And if they have those good core values like we mentioned, because there is no parent who does not want to wish their children well. Every parent would like to have their children succeed in life. So whenever parents say no, it's not because they don't love you.
Mm-hmm.
They love you, and somehow because God has given them this heavy responsibility of bringing you up and taking care of you, they kind of, with experience, hindsight, they are able to foresee some obstacles. Now you live through it. This is now the time for you to reflect. Was that a good choice?
I believe at the moment I felt like, okay, I'm in love and this is going to end up in marriage. And I felt at that point there was nothing really you could have told me. You couldn't even have physically restrained me to keep me at home. It would never have happened. At that point, I believe, and I'm very strong-headed, as you know, and level-headed. Whatever I decide to do, I'll decide to do. So at that point in time, I had made my choice, and I wanted to go, and that's where I was going. I was moving to the military base, and that's where I'm going, and there was nothing you could tell me about it.
Particularly when you are over 18, there's nothing I could do.
No.
However, at that point in your age,
yeah,
many times it's very difficult to distinguish between infatuation and love. When you reflect back now, you should tell the difference. Were you infatuated or were you truly in love?
I was just done with school, so I think I was now ready to, because for about 25 years of my life I was strictly in my books and reading and going around doing mission work. So it wasn't. I felt like I needed to explore the world. I felt like there's something that I just hadn't done. And maybe it was time for me to go and get married and do it backwards. I guess I was trying to do it backwards, but it backfired. immensely.
I hope you learned from it.
but I came. But I was. But the thing is, even when I made that choice, I still had the fear of moving because I've never lived away from home unless going to school. But I always knew that whatever I do, that's one thing I know. Whatever mistake I do, you're not gonna shut the door. I will always come back home. So I always knew my room's still gonna be there.
Absolutely, and don't forget what I said. In my life, I've tried to use the God-man model, where I want to treat humankind like God treats us. When we make mistakes, God doesn't abandon us. He still cares for us.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for that. I mean, of course.
But it doesn't mean we should take advantage so
and
we go and keep messing because we have where to go back to. But rather, we can learn from our mistakes and we try better next time.
Okay, so do you when someone is not going to date or whatever, or in my opinion, I've refused to leave the nest. I'm not going to leave it because I'm too comfortable. Like, would you then push your child to start dating and and get on your knees every day and pray that a spouse will come from somewhere so these children can leave your house and leave you in peace? Or are you more content that you don't want them to be out there in the world alone? Are you more content because you've experienced both? So are you more content because you don't want that phone call where, oh, he's beating up my child or he's not being kind to my daughter? Are you more comfortable with your children just being at home with your grandchildren, or is that option of them getting married and
remember what you do with your life is in your hands and in the hands of God. It's not in my hands. Choices are in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
We will still look after our offspring because that's our responsibility. I don't think that God says that when kids are over 18,
mm-hmm.
you abandon them.
Yeah.
Where we come from, parents are always parents. It does not matter how old the children are. They will still look up to the parents. That's my philosophy. However, there are many models in this world. There are many models. If you go to Malawi, it is the boys who leave the nest. They go to the girls'
mm-hmm.
parents in some tribes in Malawi. So there is no single model that states that girls must leave their home and go to the boys' home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Creator said this: both the man and the woman leave and cleave. So what is more important is how do you cleave to each other, not where you stay mm-hmm. or where you're leaving from. Mm-hmm. It's how you cleave. That's more important.
Okay, so well. Then at least I know for now I'm safe. They're not going to chase me away from home. So and I'll still, now when you have a grandkid and you know the kids. If any of you live at home with your parents, you know that the grandkids are your leverage tool. I use it. They're the ones you keep using because they love those grandchildren. Like, I don't think you even know what your life was before my Petunia was there. Can you even remember? You have two grandchildren living with two little girls living with you right now. Yeah. Your grandchildren from both your daughters. So I don't know if you know your life. It would be empty without it. I think.
Absolutely.
So so good.
That's why God said, "Go multiply."
So somebody says here, Lily says, I feel like that the model should be whatever works. If the boy is going to the girl, works fine. If the girl goes, which is what. And thank you, Leah, Keith, Patty, Morgan, Rende, Kibet, David Nakundi, Joe Bogabi, Govish. There are a lot of you here who I wasn't seeing through the chat. I would love to thank you for tuning in and watching with us. So we've basically gone on an overview of what we'll be discussing every week. So if you need to, you can, on Kisasa, you can send us a message if there are any topics that you'd like us to discuss. So from next week, we'll actually be narrowing it down topic by topic. So we'll let you know what we're going to be discussing. Today was just like an overview and a little bit of an insight on us. So you're going to see us here. Sometimes we'll be laughing, sometimes we'll cry, sometimes we'll get really heated. We're both we're both debaters, and just wanted to give you a little bit of a tidbit. I really wasn't going into communication when I ever started school. That I don't think, that's not even what you wish for. What was I starting to do? I think I wanted to be a zoologist at one point, and they prayed for me to be a doctor. And my dad secretly prayed that I would be an engineer like him, and he still secretly prays that his grandchildren will be. But I ended up in communication. But it's partly his fault, because a very interesting tidbit you may not know about him is between the years of 82 and 86, he was at VOK. So you can tell me a little bit about your stint. He was actually in broadcasting, so it's his fault that I got into this somewhat.
Well, the church in Kenya asked me to be associate director for communications to help with their religious programs at VOK television and radio, and also to be editor for their Herald newspaper they had for the church. That's in Kenya and Uganda.
So I got that from there. So thank you so much for listening to us, and please like our page and follow it, and we'll see you all next week. Have a blessed, awesome weekend, and talk to your parents. Send them a message, say hello. But we don't need a phone card anymore. Do the WhatsApp, but keep in contact with your parents. Learn and live and forgive. Thank you. Have a blessed week. We'll see y'all next week.